seen it happen 100 times where a client walks into a salon, they sit down, the stylist looks at their hair, realizes that it's been dyed by box color, and then proceeds to criticize or to shame them. Why does that happen? Why is it that the stylists are always so annoyed when a client comes in with their hair dyed with box color? Today I'm going to be talking all about box color, my honest opinion about it, and I'm going to let you know whether or not I think it's really all that bad or whether or not it's a way for the hairdressing community to maintain their income. Let's go. My biggest pet peeves in the entire world are judgy hairdressers. I come from an immigrant family. I immigrated to Canada from Brazil. My father was a student, and when we were little, we didn't have a lot of money. Not everyone is able to get their hair done every single month for great coverage or change or whatever for over $200. It is just not a possibility for a lot of families. So is it okay for those people then to not feel good about themselves or not be able to change how they look or not be able to have a beauty experience that they want? Does money dictate whether or not you are allowed to feel good about yourself or allowed to make beauty changes? I don't think that it should. And that's where box color comes in. Box color fills the void of people that aren't able to go into the salon, that aren't able to afford it themselves. Does it take away from stylist income? I don't believe so. There are so many clients. There are more than enough clients for stylists, especially if you are a stylist that cares about your clients, that's good, that's efficient, that does a good job. This experience with a stylist cannot be replaced by a box dye. But the box dye does fill the niche of people that can't go into the salon, that don't necessarily have the funds or the means to get their hair done professionally. So I would much rather guide you than degrade you, because nobody needs that shit. If you are someone that can't afford to go to a salon right now and you want to change, I would love to guide and help you than to make you feel bad about it. Now that you listened to my ranty intro, let's get right into the video. Let's start talking about the problem with hair dye and why it is that a lot of hairdressers really hate it. Now, I know that a lot of people think it's because it takes away from our overall income, but this is really not the case. There are a lot of issues with box dye that has nothing to do with the stylist business. So we're gonna go into it so that you are able then to make a better informed decision if you decide to go down the path of box dye. You're at least gonna know the fundamentals so that you can choose something that's gonna work better for you. The biggest problem with box dyes is that it's not customizable. In order for these companies to not get a lot of complaints, not get a lot of returns, it has to be effective for even the most resistant hair type. Now, I'm gonna explain why this is. So let's take 3 different people, for example. Let's start with my hair. My hair is fine in texture. I have very dark hair. I have no gray, and I have issues with balding or with alopecia or with thinning. Now you can take my sister's hair. My sister has extremely dense, curly, porous hair that's black, virgin, never been dyed, and also has next to no grays. And then you take someone like my client, Shelly. Now, Shelly probably has 85 to 90% gray. She has very dense, long, straight hair, and it's very resistant to color. It's very strong, and it doesn't like to budge, and it's very hard to cover. The hair formulation that I would mix to color my hair would be completely different than the hair formulation that I would mix to color my sister's hair. And it would also be completely different than the hair formulation I would mix to then color Shelly's hair. All 3 of us have different starting points, and likely all 3 of us have different ending goals. So the formulation that you're going to create is going to be customizable to that client's starting point, their hair type, and their end goal. Box color has to work for the most difficult client's hair, the one that's the most difficult to cover. And in this case, it would definitely be Shelly's hair because she has a lot of gray, and gray is very resistant to coverage. Her hair is also very thick and dense, and also is a very difficult type of hair to penetrate into the cortex to get that color in and to have that opaque coverage. Whereas my hair, for example, would be extremely easy to cover because it's fine in texture and it also has no gray. So what that means is that for it to cover Shelly's hair, my hair and my sister's hair, we gotta focus on Shelly's hair, because if you formulate to cover my hair, it's not gonna cover Shelly's hair. If you formulate to cover my sister's hair, it's gonna cover my hair, but it won't cover Shelly's hair. So the box color has to be suited to Shelly's hair because it will cover all three of us. Now, you're probably wondering, so who cares? You get coverage, everyone gets coverage, everyone is happy. But that's not really how it works, because for you to get a lot of coverage, you need a really high level of hydrogen peroxide. So if you've ever heard a stylist say something like 10 volume, 20 volume, 30 volume, what they're referring to is the developer, and that's the agent that you mix with the dye or that you mix with the lightener. The higher the developer, the higher the levels of hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is what lifts the cuticle to get the color in, but the higher the levels of hydrogen peroxide, the more potential you have to do a lot of damage on certain hair types that don't need such a high level. Therefore, depending on where you're starting in terms of your porosity and your color history and your density and where you want to go, which is your hair goals, whether you want to go darker or lighter, you're going to be customized in a salon. The stylist is going to know whether they should use 10, 20, 30, or even 40 volume to get you to that end goal the easiest, most effective, and safest way. That's what brings us to this overall fact that box color cannot think. Box color cannot adapt according to the person's specific needs. It cannot adapt to the person's color goals or even to their color history. And because box color cannot think, it's going to work for the most resistant hair type. It's going to cater to the person that's going to be the most difficult to color, so that it doesn't get repeated complaints that it's not covering or that it's not effective or all of that stuff. So what does that mean? So when you get a really high level of hydrogen peroxide on hair that doesn't need it, what you're going to get is you're going to get increased dryness, because that hydrogen peroxide is lifting that cuticle layer up. It's really roughing it up to get that color molecule in there. You're just creating a lot of damage and a lot of dryness on hair that doesn't need such high levels of hydrogen peroxide. And what you're also going to do, you're probably going to get a really inky result. You're going to get something that's really opaque. Oftentimes when you see hair salon colors, you get a multi-tonal effect. You get a lot of dimensions of color in the hair. And when you are using box color, oftentimes because you have to deposit so strongly for that most resistant hair type, you might end up getting something that's flat and opaque. And that's something that I often see in the salon when someone comes in with box color. You can tell that it's box colored, one, because it's typically very, very dry on the ends, especially if they're overlapping month after month, but it's also very inky and very opaque. It doesn't have that natural translucency that professional hair color or that natural hair color does. From my experience in the salon as well, it has a tendency to really grab on, and again, that's because of the manufacturing of box color and, you know, the marketing potential it has. It has to really grab onto that hair, that most resistant hair type. So if you want to change your hair later, aka go lighter, if you want to lift it out of hair, it is very difficult to lift. So what happens is when you want to then change your color and adapt or do a balayage or do highlights, you can end up with a not so nice result because it's just so hard to etch it out of the hair. And by the time the hairdresser finally etches it all out of the hair and gets you to your end result, you're looking at multiple sessions, you're looking at a lot of damage, and you're looking at a really high price point. So I understand that box color can be tempting, but if you're the type of person that goes back and forth a lot with your hair, you like it dark for the fall, you like it light in the summer, you want to balayage it, you want to highlight it, you want to change it up, it's not really worth spending $10 on that color session that you were going to spend using your box color, because you're going to end up spending hundreds and hundreds on the corrective sections. Now, if you're someone that just wants to do an overall brown or an overall red, or you have a lot of gray and you want month-to-month coverage, but you don't want to change your hair a lot, it could definitely be an option for you that would be a lot less expensive. And that brings me to my next point of who can use box color. In my opinion, the people that can use box color effectively are, one, people that want root coverage for gray. If you have, say you have brown hair all over and you want to cover those really resistant gray roots and you don't want to change your hair up a lot, box color could be an option for you. The second person that it could be an option for is someone that wants to change the tonal quality of their hair and stay at the same level. So for example, say you have a level 6 brown hair, it's in really good shape, and you want to go red. You could put a level 6 red on top of that. You're going to change the tonal quality of the hair, but you're not going lighter. You're certainly not going lighter, and you're not, you know, doing anything too complicated with foiling. You're just gonna change the tone of the hair. Again, you wanna commit to that hair color. So you really wanna be a really sexy redhead and you wanna be that for a long time, and you don't care if it's gonna be difficult to get it out, then that is also an option for you. The third person that can do box color without really botching their hair is if you wanna go darker. Going darker with box color is easier than going lighter. Going lighter can be next to impossible. It's very complicated. We'll talk a little bit about it more later, but if you're going darker, it's a much easier process and much more achievable. Now that we understand the fundamentals of box color, we understand developer, we know why hairdressers hate it and how it's very difficult to change. If you fall into these 3 categories and you still want to do it, next week I'm going to talk about how to do gray coverage with box color, how to go darker with box color, and how to change your tone with box color in a way where it looks more professionally done. We're going to talk about sectioning. We're going to talk about choosing the box color for you. We're going to talk about tones. We're going to talk about color levels. So if you want to stay tuned for part 2 of that video series, then definitely subscribe down below, join the community, click that bell notification button so you know when that video is posted. I'm excited to do this box color playlist for you guys, and if you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to leave it in the comments section. I'm not a judgy hairdresser, and I'm here to help you look and feel your best, whether that's in a salon or at home. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, then you may find this one really interesting next. I'll see you next week. Bye.